Hello to you all and a warm welcome to the introductory episode of the Pitcast by us here at the PitcrewOnline, from the fans, for the fans. This being our test episode, we would like to tell you a little bit about ourselves and the site that we run, which will indicate what this podcast will indeed be about. First and foremost, my name is Luca, and I am a university student here in Britain who became a part of the Pit Crew in March of this year. I love pretty much all things motorsport, and I think it's safe to say that I share that in common with a lot of my colleagues here on the PitcrewOnline.net. Three of these people are here with me. Firstly, we have our deputy editor, James.
Hi, I'm James. I joined the PitcrewOnline in 2016 as an F1 correspondent. I became the Formula E editor from 2016 to 2017 before becoming deputy editor. Commentated on F1, Formula E, F2, Le Mans, W Series as well as part of the Pit Crew. I'm part of our Motorsports international coverage team for about 2 years now. For the Pit Crew, I've interviewed David Coulthard, Karun Chanduk, Jamie Chadwick, Felix Rosenquist, among others.
All right, next up we have the editor for the World Rally Championship, Warren.
Hi, I'm Warren, and I joined the crew in early 2015 as the WRC editor, looking to bring the WRC, which is not covered by anyone within the crew at the time. Since covered every single WRC event, also attended 2017 Rally GB on behalf of the crew, and spent a day with some big fans of Alvin Evans. I've also attended the Motorsports International the last 3 years and interviewed various top-level rally drivers and team principals during those events.
Brilliant. Right, last up, we have our British GT and Formula 3 editor, Jack.
Yeah, I'm Jack. I joined, I think it was like 2015, I think, as an F1 writer. Did a lot of stuff about Ferrari at that point because we each had sort of teams that we were allocated to write about. And I've kind of moved on to sort of sports car racing as things have progressed. I still do a bit of Formula One, but for the last, I think it's 3 years now, done a lot of the graveyard shifts of the Le Mans 24 hours. Normally I've had the night shift from about sort of 10, 11 o'clock at night through to the early hours of the morning. I've gone, I think since the start of 2018, so a couple of years now, done the trackside coverage of the British GT, British Formula 3 series over the last couple of years. And I've interviewed, I think, on behalf of the PitcrewOnline, both at GT events and at Autosport, which have been going for the last couple of years. Interviewed David Coulthard, Jamie Chadwick, Billy Munger, Sir Chris Hoy, among others. I think there's also, if anybody's an Emmerdale fan or a Strictly fan,
Kelvin Fletcher, yeah.
Featured quite a bit. So, it's quite a broad palette when you're doing sports car racing.
Yeah, well, I'll give some background on me. I, of course, haven't been here for too long, but I joined, again, like I said, in March. I've done plenty of articles covering sim racing, which has been very prominent during this very unfortunate time. Speaking of which, we are only four of a vast variety of contributors to the PitcrewOnline, but we all share one thing in common. We are diehard motorsport enthusiasts, and we are only here just because we love what we talk about, we love what we do, and we want to share that enthusiasm with you. That is the name of the game here at the PitcrewOnline.net and what you'll expect to hear on the Pitcast. So since this is effectively in episode 0, we all decided, why don't we just talk about why we love motorsport? Gentlemen, I will give you the floor here. Just decide amongst yourselves who goes first. You can just talk me through what it is that made you fall in love with motorsport.
I think I'd like to start. It's quite short and sweet. It was probably 3 or 4. I can't really remember exactly how old or young I was when my grandparents started watching F1 with myself and my twin brother at the time. It's all I've really ever known. And it's not just sort of Formula One. Obviously, when you're that age, you very quickly sort of look for other things that race around and try and imagine everything else is sort of like a big F1 race. And that's kind of how it's happened. And then obviously at that point you had the touring cars. I think with ITV as well was that we were at that point. You had all the support races on on the sort of Saturday and Sunday lunchtime afterwards, or the following week. So it would break your sort of 2-week breaks. They often were in Formula One for you, sort of 3 back-to-backs as we do now. It would sort of break it up a little bit. So that's kind of how I've ended up here, and just sort of found not just other stuff, not just Formula One, but a lot of other stuff that I enjoy seeing, going wheel to wheel and battling it out, really. That's kind of the long and short of it, really.
Warren, I'd like to throw it over to you for this one because World Rally. Now, I don't dislike the sport, but I've never been able to watch it as enthusiastically. But I understand that because it's something that is a huge passion for you. I'm interested to hear your perspective here.
Yeah. So thanks, Luca. And so for me, when I left school, I got a job as a mechanic, and so I started to become quite interested in cars, sort of a few years before that, and the mechanic side of things. I was actually training mechanic, and within that, obviously earning money every week, I started buying car magazines, and then I discovered Formula One, but mainly I discovered the Rally Championship, and it kind of grabbed me, and got to the point, and that was sort of late 1989. That gives you an idea of my age. I left school that year. I followed the Lombard RAC Rally, the forerunner to the British Round, as we now know it as Wales Rally GB. So I followed that. Back in the day, you had to tape stuff overnight because they put highlights on at silly o'clock, sort of 11 at night. So I'd record that and then watch it the following day after work. And that was sort of November 89. And since then, really, it's been rally. Then F1 came along a couple of years later. Watched my first F1 race in 1991, I think. I've got big memories of that move from Mansell on Senna in the Spanish Grand Prix in late 92.
No, it's 91, I think.
And I followed Formula One literally all the way through, WRC as well. And obviously touring cars became big because the thing was, back then, touring cars was on the BBC, as was Formula One. So you had Murray Walker doing the commentary, not only for Formula One, but also for the touring cars. So, yeah, it just sort of grabbed me, and it's just stayed with me the rest of my life, really. To join the crew 5 years ago now, and be able to write about sport and that I love is an incredible privilege. So big thanks to Simon, who set up the crew in the first place, really, to allow a load of us to come through, and to some of us have moved on, but a lot of us have remained. So big thanks to him, really, because without that, I'd just still be just a fan, just following it rather than writing about it.
Yeah, well, I think everyone can definitely relate to the idea of wanting to be more than just, someone who follows what they love. They want to help people. Like, I really, I didn't want to show any disrespect by saying I've never been able to really invest myself in the World Rally Championship, because I'm more about close quarters racing rather than time trials. But my admiration knows no bounds, and I will get to that. So I just definitely want to let James have his say, because I'll probably be going on forever. So James, your turn.
Yeah, so I feel like I've taken a bit of a roundabout route as a motorsport fan, because I've never really been into cars. Like Warren was saying, kind of getting a job as a mechanic and falling in love with the cars themselves. Like I didn't even pass my driving test until last year. But I remember my parents always having a Grand Prix on in the background, at least, growing up. And my sister fell in love with Formula One as a teenager, and then I remember sitting down with her to watch the Canadian Grand Prix in 2011.
Good one.
Yeah, first Grand Prix.
What? That was your first?
That was my first Grand Prix.
Oh, what a first one.
I know, luck of the draw. And it was great because I remember I was watching it with my sister, and she was a huge Vettel fan and a huge Red Bull fan.
Oh.
So I think I sort of started supporting Button, I think, just out of contrariness. But as he was drawing Vettel in, I was like, yes, come on, Button. And then to see him win in that fashion was it just lit something in me that I think I've then been watching every Grand Prix since then. And, you know, I remember when the 2012 season started, and there were 7 different winners in the first races. It was just phenomenal. And yeah, so I started with F1, watching that. And I think around about sort of 2015, I started writing as a hobby and set up a motorsport blog. And then towards the end of the year, saw on Twitter that the Pit Crew were looking for writers. So I sent them an email and said, here's a link to my blog. I'd love to write for you. And they took me on, and I think my interest in motorsport has exploded just being a part of the Pit Crew, really. Like having the opportunity when they needed somebody to cover Formula E, for me to start watching that series and start covering that, and then to take over things like Formula 2 coverage and commentating on Le Mans and W Series, and just really investing in all of these incredible series. And yeah, I mean, you've all alluded to like the bravery involved, and I think the kind of the technical prowess and the sort of the mental strength and everything that these drivers and the team personnel as well have to do in order to be successful in these sports. It's just something that I find really inspiring and really incredible.
Well,
right, well, I hope you don't mind. I'd like to have the floor now. So, I wasn't been aware of cars because I started out liking road cars at first. In fact, the thing that really lit my interest in cars in general. Do you remember those end of year DVDs that Jeremy Clarkson used to do? Yes, yeah. So it was Clarkson Heaven and Hell, his 2005 DVD, the Ferrari Enzo. That really got my foot in the door in regards to cars at all. And then obviously just simply because I was into motorsport, like into cars, as a result, I just sort of started people telling me, oh, you must like motorsport then. And I never really sort of took them up on it. In fact, I would always play like the typical racing games and go for the road cars and shun all the cars with the big writing on the side and all the numbers. But then it was right about when Lewis Hamilton started getting involved. Now, I know he's not everyone's cup of tea, but for me, it's a case of, oh, a Brit is winning. I must like it. I don't know. I haven't stopped, but it was specifically my first race that I ever watched. You said, James, Canada 2011. Mine was Brazil 2008.
Oh,
that was a red heart to get interested in motorsport with. Oh man, my heart was sinking.
With.
Warren, tell them when our first memories were, because I reckon.
Yeah, you know what, I'll let you actually. Yeah, go on. I'll pick up in a bit. Go on. What's yours, Jeff?
Mine was, I think, the first memory I've got, and I've been watching a couple of years, so I can't tell you exactly what it was, but the first memory I've got was the 2000. I think it was Monaco 2001, where I just remember David Coulthard just being stuck behind. I think it was Enrico Bernaldi.
Arrows.
For I think it must have been about 50 laps. You'll probably know exactly how many it was, Warren, but
something like that.
For almost the entirety of a 78 lap race. And yeah, I just remember thinking, okay, can't be that hard, can it? Obviously, I know now Monaco's Monaco, and a little bit wiser than I was then, because I was about 5 at the time. Yeah, so yeah, you've got sort of 2008 Brazil. You've got absolute classics. You've got Canada 2011. I'd have been watching probably since the start of the season, probably a couple of years before or something. So I can't tell you much about how Hakkinen won races, but I do know he won a few at that era. Whereas you've got Warren, who's probably going to sort of rise up and tell us he sort of saw him in the real glory days, if you like, of the sort of late 70s, 80s.
No, see, that's the thing. So I didn't even know about Formula One really until I sort of started following the Rally Championship, because when you buy magazines like Car Magazine and Autocar on a regular basis, you become quite aware of not just cars in general, but motorsport. And so, yeah, I recall the 1991 Canadian Grand Prix, the one where Mansell conked out on the last lap, and I think Benetton came through to win.
It was PK.
So
Nelson
that's
Peak.
kind of one of my early Formula One memories. Yeah, that the Lombard RAC Rally, that was won by Pentia Ricola, and it was his only ever top level WRC win as well, driving the then Galant four-wheel drive, four-wheel steer car. There's actually footage of this event on YouTube under VHS rallies. There's this person online who's taking all these old videos and putting them online, digital conversion. It's quite astonishing and just amazing to watch as well. So yeah, but yeah, I mean, I've got so much memory of Formula One. It's
May I get back to my thing now? I'm sorry,
basic.
I don't want to be
Go
rude.
on.
Right.
Go on.
So, anyway, I fell in love with racing that day. I was able to like watch it all. I still was on the outer reaches of how involved I could have been with racing at a point. It was 2010 when I first started really following it, and then I started picking up on, because I actually went to the British Grand Prix in 2010, and I knew sort of a bit about like GP2 and GP3, and it was then when I started realizing there was more than just F1. There was all of these series. There was like not MotoGP, there was IndyCar, there was like sports car racing, to British touring cars as well, although I didn't really pick up on that until about a few years later. But it all just really fascinated me. And then as it went on, I started really picking up on the personal side of motorsport. The fact that because Lewis Hamilton, we've all heard the story about him being just some like poor kid, well not poor, but like not well off kid, from Stevenage, who had to make a lot of sacrifices. And I never really picked up on that until much later on, like the fact that these people really do go through a lot to get to where they are. And I just recently I went to PFI karting track as a guest of Mick Barrett Racing, and I was so inspired by all these people who are doing what they do, varying degrees of success and varying degrees of what they hope to get out of it. But the fact is, you will often, for every one Lewis Hamilton, what happened there? That was a noise. For every Lewis Hamilton, you will have 5 other people who their monies, you don't pluralize money, their money and opportunities, they run out eventually. And so like this, I have so much respect for all these people who do what they can, because it requires so much dedication, so much sacrifice. In fact, and I don't want to harp on about this, Simon, he's already aware of this, but I'm actually looking to write a book series about a British racing driver going from karting all the way up to potentially Formula One. And I've got that. The reason why I was a guest of Mick Barrett at PF in December was because of me wanting to write this book. And I've also been to Carlin's headquarters, and I've met a few real world drivers, become friends with a lot of them. And yeah, it is my life. I could not think of what else I would want to be doing right now. And
Which drivers have you met?
Which drivers have I met? So I met Tom Gamble, because he and Mick Barrett are quite friendly.
Yeah, no, because I'm thinking I might know a few from F3 Rain.
I've met who else have I met? You asked me this and now my brain's gone numb. But I met Esme Hawkey, I met Jamie Chadwick, Alice Powell. This is from the W series, and then a lot of other people in the because I live near Croft, and I went there during the test day for the British touring cars and all their support categories, and that's where I met Trevor Carlin. Because he was there for some reason, even though he's got an American IndyCar team, he chooses Croft to go and watch the Formula 4 guys test. It was surreal. Like I've been very privileged, and to think now that I am amongst very like-minded people such as yourselves it is honestly a privilege, and I'm looking forward to the opportunities we all have together.
No, I think I speak for all us when I would agree with that. Hopefully, this can develop a little bit more.
Right then, shall we wrap this up? Because this will be the prologue episode, and next week or the week after, we'll all obviously discuss in between, but we will have something in mind for everyone who is listening right now. Are we okay to wrap this up, everyone?
Mm-hmm.
Brilliant. Right, I'm going to just let all of you people out there off on a few notes. We, again, like I've already said, we are only 4 of a lot of people who will probably be popping up in a few episodes in the future. We, here at the PitcrewOnline, we want to cover every single type of motorsport that we can, whether that be Formula 1, Formula E, Rallycross, motorcycle racing, endurance racing, touring cars, karting, or even sim racing. That's what you will get when you visit the PitcrewOnline.net, and you can expect to hear on the Pitcast. So to everyone listening, thank you. We hope you can come back. Gentlemen, do we want to give out our social media handles so people can find us on Twitter?
Yeah, can do.
All right, James, you go first.
So I'm at James16 Matthews.
Okay, Warren?
I'm Warren Nell, and you can search for me as Warren WRC Editor on Twitter and Instagram as well.
Okay, Jack?
JPrentice8 on Twitter and JPrentice678 on Instagram.
Brilliant. And if you want to find me, my social media handle is the Luca Format on Twitter. So thank you very much for joining us. We hope you will be able to come back soon and listen to just a load of motorsport enthusiasts blabbering on about nonsensical stuff. So until then, we will see you all out on track.
Yeah, no, see you soon. Take care.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.